real YouTubers record video of team review from the Reddit League. Team review. Alright, what's up guys? It's me. It's your boy. Today I have a special video for you. Well, first let's start out with how I came up with this idea. I was sitting there, browsing Discord, and suddenly my good friend Heron says this in the chat: team reviews are lit. So you know what? I decide I'm lit. I should do a team review. And here we are today with my team review in the form of a tier list. As you can see, I have many Pokemon. That is because I dropped like 30 Pokemon throughout the season, and I picked up more. Half of these I've never actually even brought to a match before I dropped them and picked them up. That's why we have the didn't bring tier list, or the didn't bring section of the tier list. So you know what? Let's jump right into it. So first on the list we got Dugtrio. I picked Dugtrio thinking that Arena Trap was legal. It was my tier 5 of choice, it was my tier 5 of choice. I believe it was at the end of the draft. It might have been my second to last pick or last pick. Without Arena Trap, this thing is really fucking garbage, so I'd have to give it an E tier. This thing is trash. I would never pick this without Arena Trap again. The Alolan form is slightly better, I think, even though the speed tiers are a little fucked. The regular Dugtrio is a little bit faster than Alolan, but Alolan has arguably a better typing and definitely a better ability with when Arena Trap doesn't exist in Tangling Hair. So yeah, never pick Dugtrio. This thing's garbage. If they make Arena Trap legal, Dugtrio will be great. Next on the list, we got Cloister. Cloister, as you know, it's a shell smasher and it kills shit. I picked up Cloister in, I believe I dropped Buzzwole and Typhlosion on the first week, and I picked up Cloister and Conch. And this thing kind of did work. It was only on my team for 3 weeks, but it did click Shell Smash, and it did kill shit. Week 1 versus Andy, I killed it for no reason, and that was kind of cringe. But you know what? Even though I dropped it, this thing did do work. I'm going to have to put it in the B tier. Next, we've got my first overall pick of the draft. The number, I believe I was 13 in the draft order. I selected Pidgeot Mega because I played Renegade Platinum with my good friend Owens, and we got a Pidgeot in said run, and in that run, said Pidgeot had a Hurricane and no guard. It's a ROM hack, if you're not familiar, and it did work in said ROM hack, and I thought it was cool, and I thought it was going to be fun to just launch off big Hurricanes. It wasn't. This thing was complete and utter dog shit for me. Now, being said, I'm still not the greatest player, and at the beginning of the season, I have never played singles before in my life, competitively at least. I've only Nuzlocked, and I've only played in tournaments. So I will admit, as Logical brought up multiple times during the season, one of my coaches, that I never clicked Pursuit, and I clicked U-turn like twice, which was kind of a crime. While I do think this is true, I think this thing is really good in like some UU meta on ladder, but it's kind of dog in Draft League. If you look at the other tier 1s we have here, oh, it looks like it's a little fucked up. Let me see if I can fix that. Maybe I just have to... there we go. All right. So as you can see here, I have all the tier 1s present. If you go through it, there's actually almost like Aerodactyl and maybe Altaria, Beedrill. There's not many, Weavile maybe, there's not many Pokemon that kill shit as good as Pidgeot does. Pidgeot just basically has no guard and really high special attack, and it gets Hurricane and Heat Wave. And it has stuff like Work Up, Sub, Roost. So basically all you do is you just kill shit with this thing. And it's pretty fast too. It's got a good speed tier. I believe it's base 121 after it's Mega Evolved. So it's got a good speed tier. It does a fuck ton of damage. But the problem with Draft League is that this thing only does one thing. And that one thing it does is The one thing it does is that it kills shit, right? But when you know it's coming every week, you could just EV to deliver Hurricane or whatever, and this thing is paper, so it just dies. it has like pretty much no other use outside of, especially because you can't put an item on it. Compared to something like reveiw, where you can put an item on it. And it's like the same idea, right? Reveiw just gets shit on like anytime you sneeze on it, but Pidgeot also does, but you can't put an item on Pidgeot. So like you just know exactly what it's going to do every week. All you have to do is just like you put up Stealth Rocks for one, because this thing is weak to rocks, and you can't put boots on it. Or you just EV for it to live, or your Pokemon, like your important Pokemon to live Hurricane, and it can't like it can't carry the game by itself. Like it really needs to. It's like you need to play like good, and you need to be a good player, I think, to make this work in Draft League. And simply that is not me. Like I literally had like my idea picking it was I was just gonna take it. I was gonna press Work Up a couple times, maybe like behind screens, and then I was just gonna press Hurricane and win games because I thought it was that good. But my understanding of singles is like way better now. And I think this was just like a fool decision. Like if you want to make this thing work, you have to pick like a human team, like a normal human team. You have to play like a human and just slowly chip down everything. And once everything's chipped, this thing can come in and do work, right? But you have to eliminate its threats first. And the fact that it can have so many threats and you know what it's going to do every time makes it really difficult for like a newer player like myself to actually use this thing. I don't actually know like if a good player can make this work. Because I don't know. In my coaches were also shitting on Pidgeot. Everyone except for Logical actually would probably shit on Pidgeot. So at least to the people I talked to. So like I don't know. I'm not a fan of this though. I wouldn't pick it again. Maybe if I was a way better player and it was way later in the draft. I looked at the draft order. I picked this before Venusaur Mega was picked. I'm like, that's criminal. Like, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. Obviously, I was a newer player or whatever. All right, next we have my first tier 3 I picked. We got Bronzong. Yo, this thing's the GOAT, though. Like, for real, this thing is crazy good. You can do so much whack shit with this. Trick Room. It has Heat Proof and Levitate, which like your opponent has to coin flip like which one you're bringing every week. Sometimes people just didn't have Earthquake, and I could bring this. I could bring this with Heat Proof, and I could do some weird Trick Room setup shit, and like it just did damage. Like it always did a job. It put up rocks. Like this thing's a beast. It's really good defensively. Its only problem is that it doesn't have a way to pivot out. I think in Radical Red it gets teleport, but unfortunately in the real games it doesn't. So yeah, but. I mean, I would pick this thing again in a heartbeat. I picked Pidgeot than this. I picked tier 3 in my second pick of the draft, and like I don't regret it. This thing's a banger. For tier 3, this thing is crazy value. If this thing gets moved up to tier 2, I think it'd be garbage. But I think at tier 3, it's like crazy value. Iron Defense, Body Press, Heavy Slam. You can even I used Heavy Metal one week. There was one set I had that had like Weakness Policy and Rock Polish on it, like and Heat Proof. It's like this thing's dope. Like you can do so much shit with this. Like I would totally pick this again, especially because I think I'm a better player now. I could just do so much more whack shit. Tauros didn't bring it. I picked it and I just didn't bring it. I don't really know. I don't think that thing's very good. Pinsir, I also didn't bring it, but I think this thing is really good for a tier 5. It's just like a really value tier 5 pick. It has a really high attack stat. It has like a pretty mediocre speed tier, but you can just kind of like scarf it, and it gets Moxie, so you can sweep with it. Any tier 5 that has a potential to sweep is like something your opponent has to prep around, and I think that's really strong. So I think this thing is really good. But I didn't bring it because I got it in like the last 2 weeks of the season, and then I didn't make playoffs. So, but otherwise, I totally would have brought it. I wish I picked it up sooner because I kind of needed a bug type. Yeah, it can also set rocks, which is cool. Here's Groddle. I never brought it, but this guy was an S tier cheerleader. I mean, look at that thing. Those bushes, expert trims, so fucking handsome. This shit's gonna get body pressed when it gets put in Sword and Shield. It gets wide guard if you're ever playing doubles. It's really fucking tanky with Eviolite. It's got a pretty dog shit typing and a terrible move pool, but like, it's fucking Groddle. Like, you'd love to see it. Next we have Lantern. I ended up dropping Lantern in the middle of the season. The idea of the draft, me drafting Lantern, was that it was a I'm putting the B tier spoilers. It's a good like it has potentially 2 immunities, water or lightning absorb, and it's just like it's got a really good typing, right? I also had at this point I'd already picked Bronzong and I had Pidgeot, so I already had 2 immunities to ground. which is one of Lantern's weaknesses, along with grass. And Pidgeot and Bronzong resists grass as well. Pidgeot resists grass, but you don't want to switch Pidgeot into anything. But the fact that this thing has Volt Absorb means you could just switch it in on Volt Switchers and it heals it back up. Andy pointed out to me that I was kind of playing with it wrong because I'd always play with like some defensive set. Like I brought like Stockpile 1 week on it, and it was just not very good. But I don't know. I think this thing is definitely a really value tier 4. The reason I dropped it is because we'll get to Suicune next. I got to pick up Suicune. And I didn't want like the 2 water types on my team. So yeah, I don't know. I think this thing is good. The original idea was I was going to have like 10 immunities on my team on a 7 Pokemon team. So you always like, I wanted to get Goodra and I wanted to get some other shit and be like, yeah, I'm just like immune to everything. So you have a hard time playing against me and I can like switch. It makes it easier for me to switch in Pidgeot because like if I have a bunch of immunities, I can like predict how you're playing or try to predict how you're playing. That was like my TCG brain at the beginning of the season when I thought it was. But so I think this thing is really solid. If Andy told me that I should just be running max special attack on it most weeks and just be scalding shit because like the idea is that you switch it in on a Volt Switch, right? And then it takes the Volt Switch. The guy doesn't get switched out, and then you get a free scald on anything with 30% chance to burn. And you can max special attack, like that can be good damage even if they're resisting. And if they're resisting, they still have a chance of getting burned, right? So I think this thing is actually really good as a tier 4. I don't regret dropping it because I think I'll talk about Suicune next, but I think this thing was really good. If I didn't drop it and I kept it throughout the season, I think this thing was better than Cloister for me. Cloister it dropped like 11 kills 1 week too. I don't know. This thing's a banger. I'd pick it again for sure. Suicune's an easy S tier. This thing is a tier 3 for some reason, kind of like Bronzong. And this thing just solo wins games with its like the sub Calm Mind, Protect, whatever garbage you want to do with it. Just like it's super it's got insane base stats, like 115 in both, which also 115 in defense and special defense, which makes it really easy to EV it because you always just dump everything into health plus whatever else you want. So like you don't have to use your fucking brain. You don't even have to run calcs for this thing. Like it's nice. Like this thing is nice. I'm kind of shook this thing is a tier 3. Like I'd pick this at tier 2. This was like the most fun I had. Like, it was one of my favorite Pokemon that I had. Probably my favorite, actually, that I picked this season. I liked it better than Bronzong, but Bronzong was like a close second. Both my tier 3s were just bangers. I picked it up mid-season. Logical had it for most of the season, and I picked it up as soon as he dropped it, pretty much. Yeah, and that's why I dropped Lantern. No regrets. This thing solo won me versus Korra. This one solo won me versus the week before, too. I forgot who I played. Yeah. All right. So next we got Conch. Conch is like... So like I heard people telling me that this thing should be a tier 1. And I understand why. This thing has a crazy high attack stat. It's like base 140. It has Guts. It has Iron Fist. And it has Sheer Force. Now there's almost never any reason to use Sheer Force. But Guts and Iron Fist are both really good abilities. Especially on something really bulky. Physically bulky like Conch is. Guts especially. You can switch it in with its mono fighting type. You can switch it into almost anything. It's like a shitty Buzzwole, basically. That's kind of how I viewed it this season for me. The problem is it's really slow. It doesn't get Mach Punch, which is good. It has good coverage in general. It has all the punches and everything like that. The reason I put it in C is because I think this Pokemon's like hard to use. I think in regular UU meta it's actually good too, like in the Sword and Shield one. The Natox as well, but like my idea was I wanted like a switch in for rock types, basically physical rock types to protect Pidgeot, and I thought this thing was super value for doing it, especially at tier 2. Like I still think this Pokemon's really value, but I don't know. I couldn't figure out how to use it correctly. I thought it would just be like stick Flame Arm on it, stick Assault Vest, like switch it into Will-O-Wisps, switch it into Toxics, and just press Mach Punch a bunch of times or whatever is super effective because it gets a fuck ton of coverage. And then like I think it's a bit more complicated than that. And like I'd pick Conch again, but for how it performed for me this season, it was definitely better than how Pidgeot performed for me this season. And it could have been a lot better, I think, because I still think the idea that I had behind it is sound. I I feel like I didn't bring it out. I didn't play with it correctly. And I had it. That's not the only mon that I don't think I played with correctly. It's even more so Pidgeot, because I think Pidgeot was just a bad idea from the start. Conch, I think, was a good idea, and it could have been really good, but it just wasn't. It didn't perform that great. There were weeks where like I put Assault Vest on it, and it just like stood in front of things, hit Drain Punch. It like did some work, but like it never really like won me games, and it wasn't like I didn't bring it every week either, which is, I don't know, like Bronzong and Suicune, when I had them on my team, I brought them every week. So I don't know, yeah. Next we have Delphox. Delphox, I think, I really needed like a fire switch in. So I think, I needed a Wish Passer, because I thought, since Bronzong doesn't have recovery, I wanted something to like support that basically, and this thing has Wish. It's also just like fast, and I had a speed problem on my team at the beginning of the season. So I dropped Cloister, and I picked up this, and I think I picked up, I forgot what else I picked up, but I picked up Mudsdale, maybe? I think I picked up Mudsdale. And it did its job. It has a couple sets you can run. You can Scarf it, you can Specs it. It gets pretty good coverage, it gets Wish. You could do I think I saw Killzone was the one who had it before me, and he did like some Toxic Protect shit, because it's really fast, and you can just stall people with Wish, Sub, Toxic Protect. Yeah, I think this thing is like, it's solid. It's a tier 4. It doesn't really have an ability, which kind of sucks. Magician and Blaze are both kind of useless. Like Magician is niche, but I don't know. My team didn't have a knockoff person, or you're not switching this in. You're not getting knocked off. It takes super effective from knockoff. So like you don't really want to bring it into knockoff anyways. And like Magician is, I don't know. It's okay, I guess. Its typing is a little unfortunate, because it's weak to knockoff, it's weak to pursuit, and yeah. So Fire and Psychic don't really like defensively. They don't complement each other very well. They don't cover any of each other's weaknesses basically. I guess Bug. I guess it covers Psychic's Bug weakness, but I don't know. I don't think anyone clicked a Bug move on my Delphox all season. And I already have like, I don't know. I have just, Bronzong doesn't give a fuck about Bug moves at all. Like the only one that, like I played against Buzzwole this season, and maybe like you could do, but Buzzwole doesn't even run Bug moves. Bug is just not very good offensively. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not great. So I don't think it's like, yeah, it's not a reason to justify it. It still has the ground weakness and the water weakness and the dark weakness, which I think are really, really important. I'm actually gonna move this down to C. I don't think this was like, it wasn't on the same level as these guys. Yeah, I don't think it was the same level as these guys. Like, Cloister just dropped 11 kills 1 week, and Lantern was, like, brought every week pretty much when I had him. So, yeah, I don't know. I also don't like Delphox's model that much. Next, we got Slurpuff. I'll put Slurpuff in the A tier. I actually only had Slurpuff for 1 week because I didn't make playoffs, but Slurpuff dropped, I think, 9 kills. Just the Belly Drum Citrus Berry set, and I even fucked up the EVs on it, and, like, it didn't eat the Citrus Berry after I drummed the first game, and it still just dropped, like, 6 kills or something in the first game. I don't know. This thing's a beast. It can also do webs. It has that other mode, which is cool, I guess. I didn't use it. I only used the Belly Drum set. But Unburden, Belly Drum, I mean, like, this thing is a monster in Ranbats, and that's kind of, like, how I learned how to play singles, I guess. It's just spamming Ranbacks. And, yeah, so that's why I thought it was good. I think it's, like, good in Draft League, too. Better players will be able to, like, plan around it better, but it's, like, if you're like at the bottom half of the bracket, like I was, or the Swiss, like this thing just is a fucking monster. It's tier 2 as well, so I think this thing was super value. I wish I had it for longer. It was my replacement for Conkeldurr. I liked it a lot better than Conch. It's got pretty good resistances too, but it's got pretty bad stats overall. Grimmstar I'll also put in the A tier. This is the best prankster user in our format, or at least in this season it was, in my opinion. Comes at tier 2. It's got really good typing. Only weak to it's only weak to Fairy and Steel, I think. It sets screens. It gets T-Wave. It gets like Trick, Lagging Tail. It has 120 base attack, and it gets Spirit Break. Spirit Break's are a really good ability. Like you just press Spirit Break. Doesn't matter if they switch into something. You get -1 special attack on whatever you're switching in on. I think that's super value. So I think this thing was good. I played with screens wrong this season though, but I still think it was good. I don't know. I think if I'd pick Grimmsnarl again for sure, and I'd play differently with it. Like I think I figured it out towards the end of the season, but At the beginning, I was just like putting up screens to put up screens, but like I learned in VGC and in singles that you just gotta like you have to have you can't just put up screens to put up screens, right? You have to have a reason to put up screens. And at the end of the season, my reason to put up screens was to have Suicune press Calm Mind 6 times. And you need something like that in order to make screens like super value. So you throw out the screens, you switch in Suicune, and then you have Light Clay or whatever. You have like 8 turns of screens, and then you do your shit with Suicune, and then later you get more screens, and you can do it again with another mob. Like Bronzong is also really good behind screens because you can just set up iron defenses and start body pressing. Yeah, no, I think this thing is really good. If I played better with it, it might have made S tier. I also never used the offensive set, which is completely valid because it's got 120 base attack and it's got really good coverage. It gets Sucker Punch and shit as well. It doesn't. I don't know if it gets knockoff, but if it does, it's pretty. I don't think it does, but if it does, it's, yeah. Next, we got Aldegas. So Aldegas was there. The reason I picked Aldegas is because Logical told me I needed to remove hazards. Never played singles before at this point. And this thing had Regenerator, and I was like, Regenerator is a good ability. Monogas is good typing. This thing's a special wall, so I can switch it into shit. And it spins. It's got Aromatherapy, which is kind of good with Pidgeot, so I could just turn off my brain, let Pidgeot get T-Wave, switch in this thing, and then just press Aromatherapy when I wanted. It also gets Subseed. It's kind of hard to do Subseed because it's really, really slow. I think I did it in Trick Room once in the season. I did it in like Scrims versus Rice Boy a couple times. It's good. This was a tier 5. I think it's really value tier 5. As a mon, it's not great, but as a tier 5, it's just solid, right? It's just very solid. It does its job. It spins, it aromatherapies, it regenerates, and it seeds. Its offensive coverage is terrible, though. It's really, really fucking bad. Really bad. Next we have Golorch. Golorch went ham for Rice Boy this season, in my opinion, and that's why I picked it up when he dropped it, because I thought it was better than Savali Ground, and I didn't have a Ghost type. I didn't get to bring it, though, because I didn't make playoffs. But I think this is a good one. Typhlosion, didn't bring it. The idea was to have Flash Fire and Scarf Eruption, but it's really one-dimensional. It's the only thing it can do. Hopefully Hisui and Typhlosion makes this thing more viable, because this thing looks really cool, and it's kind of iconic, and it's just a really dog shit Pokemon. Buzzwole, I dropped before the season started. This is definitely my biggest regret. If anything, I should drop Pidgeot over this thing. This thing is a fucking beast. It destroyed me when I played against it. Scarf, Close Combat, it's just it's the best physical wall we have in the pool, in my opinion. Maybe Slowbro or I don't know. Slowbro Mega might be better, but this thing has ground resistance. It has a 4 times fighting resistance. It's got Beast Boost. It's got a mid speed tier, but it can be fixed with Scarf. It outsped Pidgeot when it was Scarfed. That was pretty good. It's just an Ultra Beast. The Ultra Beasts have really wacky stats, and if they're wacky in the right way, they do work. Mudsdale. Derby told me to pick Mudsdale. He said it was the best thing that's ever happened in Pokemon. He was hyping the fuck out of this thing. And I watched me and Riceway use it after I dropped it, and I was not impressed. I was not impressed at all. In theory, it's a ground type. You switch into Volt Switch, right? It's got Stamina, which is kind of a cracked ability, but I think good players just play correctly around this thing, and then you just I don't know, it's so slow, it just sits there. In theory, you can get it hit a bunch of times and it uses body press. It gets Heavy Slam was 120 BP on pretty much everything because it's really heavy for some reason. I guess Stab Earthquake, but I don't know. It just sits there. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it's that good. I'd like to see someone else besides me or Riceway use it, and I don't want to say it's because better player or whatever, or I'm a bad player and I didn't use it correctly, but the fact that it looks useless on Riceway's team too. Even in the really long stally matchup, it literally just looked like a rester. All it did was pressing rest. It didn't actually accomplish anything. It just fucking sits there. Especially if we change the format a bit, or if you're against a strong grass type or a strong water type, why would you even bring this thing? I don't know. I don't think it's very good. And then last I had Savali Ground. I didn't bring it. I just wanted a ground type when I dropped Lantern, so I could have a Volt Switch position. Then I switched out for Golorch when Raceway dropped that. So that's my tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Ping me in Discord. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Hit the notification bell. This is Johnny Roughneck VGC's Pokemon Singles Swag MD coming at you. And I'll see you next time.